Hello, YouTubers. I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. And basically, this is kind of an update of things. And it's got my head spinning. There's so much going on. But basically, as you'll recall, I had gotten a Fender Bassbreaker15 amplifier, and it was, the tones were great. But I thought, man, it's a little noisy, kind of this amp hum. And unfortunately, I had ordered another one because I like to play in stereo, so I like to have two. For some reason, they sent me two more, so I ended up with three, right? And, well, quite frankly, I was really disappointed. Just the way that the amp is set up with these gain structures, right? As the gain structures, from the low to the mid, it kept getting noisier and noisier, and it was this amp hum, which is, granted, amps are, tube amps especially, are inherently a little noisy, but this was getting out of hand, and I realized, especially when you've got two playing, it's just, the noise was intolerable, really. I'd be quite embarrassed, really, to be playing some little gig somewhere, and having this amp hum overtaking everything. Especially when I tried a PB Classic 30 that I had just to compare the sound. Now keep in mind the Bassbreaker has two EL84 power tubes. The PV, right, has four and is twice the wattage, and in theory twice the headroom. Well, I hooked up the PV, and guess what? The amp hum was severely reduced, right? So that's when I knew that the Bassbreaker is not going to work for me at all. So I returned one, okay? And now I had a choice because I had two left. The original one, right, that I had gotten locally, and the one sent to me. So I had two of them. And what I could do is keep them, or the option is, I had already returned one, is to return the other one. That leaves me one that I can sell or what have you. So those were my options, to either keep them or return one and sell the other, and just be done with the Fender Bassbreaker15. It was just too noisy for me, which is really surprising, And when you compare it to, right now I have the custom, the Defender 5H, right, amp head, and it's just super quiet, and yet it's fully on there. And remember, these are $100 tube heads, so they're nothing fancy at all. In fact, they only have one volume knob. But I really like the sound of it. Yeah. This kind of... mean, and it's a tube amp. Granted, it's only 5 watts, but still. And that's running through I'm using 2 of them and running them through a 2x12 cabinet. And I mean, the cabinets, I think, those Marshall vertical cabinets, and they still have the stock 70-80 speakers, you know. Yeah. They're okay, I guess, for clean, you know. But yeah, pretty quiet. Gotten a Joyo EQ pedal specifically for this amp because it can give you a really mellow tone. For example, if I'm playing up the EQ to it, right? And it gives you a totally really mellow tone, kind of. Mellows out the amp, almost kind of a jazz tone. But if I take it off, it's a much brighter. With the EQ, it's almost kind of a jazzy. Anyway, yeah, the Defender 5H was a real surprise to me. I mean, $100 tube amp, especially a 5 watt. I didn't expect any kind of headroom with it, and that was always the problem with these 5 watt amp heads, especially. I've tried. You know, they're always breaking up super early and things. Here, this is not the case. So man, when I found that, I was like, awesome. You know, for $100, what a deal. Highly recommended, by the way. So I wanted 2 in this room and 2 in my studio room, right? Well, I've gotten 3. And I don't know what the deal is, but the USPS, right, have delayed the 4th one. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, right? And they keep saying, well, it's arriving late, you know. But it's in Indianapolis. It's an hour away, so you should get it any time. Yeah, right. Right? It's been like 2 weeks. Come on. So anyway, I'm awaiting the custom head. And today, I'm going to pack up that Bassbreaker and send it back. And I'm done with the Bassbreaker. It's sad because it's not a bad amp at all. I mean, you can get some great tones out of it. Just for my purposes, it's a little noisy. Again, that amp hum, is very annoying. And it just had never occurred to me the noise factor, So when I was playing these PV Classic 30s, which have an awesome tone that I use often, And I remember I did a video on it a while ago and mentioned, man, it's so clear, So anyway, I didn't hesitate. I ordered another PV Classic 30. The same kind of reasoning to have 2 in this room and 2 in the studio room. Right? I just really like the Classic 30, especially compared to the Fender Bassbreaker15, which was just too noisy for me. Now, in the meantime, I had a Les Paul with Fishman Fluence pickups. And I had it for sale, and I had gotten it from a friend of mine. Well, as it turns out, he wanted to buy it back, so he bought it back. So that's going to pay for the PV Classic 30 that I ordered, And I won't have to pay the $400 some for the Bassbreaker because I'm returning it. Right? So that's where things stand now. Yeah, the other thing is, I thought, well, the Defender is so cool. If I could find one a little more powerful. And it's kind of hopeless to find one. They do make a Defender 15H, which is 15 watt, right? About the same as the Bassbreaker. And I would have been very interested in that, but they're really hard to find. Man. So I went through Guitar Center's list of used tube amps, and I think there was one custom, the Defender. But for me, 4 is plenty. For now anyway. But I looked through different tube amps and things. And it was your usual, Hot Rod Deluxe, Blues Junior, and those kinds of things. I don't know. Eventually I'll get around to trying a Blues Junior. I don't know how that would work out though. But the Bassbreaker was kind of a disappointment. I remember I saw that, what was it, that pedal show, those guys in England, right? And they were comparing the Blues Junior, the Vox AC15, and the Bassbreaker YouTube video, And, well, they all 3 of them kind of sounded a little similar, but I get the idea anyway, But I was surprised at how small the Blues Junior was in comparison, Because, for example, the Bassbreaker15 is as big and heavy as the PV Classic 30. Doesn't make sense because it's half the wattage, but okay. Anyway, so that's what's going on. So I guess I'm expecting a third PV Classic 30 to arrive. and someday the custom, the Defender, the fourth one. You know, hopefully it'll show up, which would be very nice. And today I hope to get the Bassbreaker packed and shipped off. And that'll be the end of the Bassbreaker. Actually, that's not true because I still have one to sell. You know, I'm not going to keep just one there. Okay. And some other amps that have caught my eye is, well, I figured if I like the Classic 30, right, one of the real budget tube amps is the PV Valve King 2, right? Could be a nice amp, I don't know. I haven't tried it, you know. I tell you what, I wish that I had a Guitar Center near me where I could try all this stuff, you know. Unfortunately, I don't, so it has to be shipped, you know. But luckily, Guitar Center, they're very reasonable in their shipping costs. And I have to admit as well, they sent me labels to return the Bassbreakers. You know, so that's very nice of them. Alright. So anyway, that's where we're at right now, right? We'll see how all this stuff works out, you know. And one thing I should mention too, you know, when you consider that you have effects, you know, pedals and all this stuff, right? That the amp, the guitar amp, is only one part of the total sound, right? You know, and I mean, this stuff gets really expensive, you know, and in fact, that's one of the reasons why I sold the Mezza Boogie. You know, $1,200 amp head, you know, needing a cabinet, running two of those, well, that's $2,400 right there. You know, I don't know, I always thought that a tube amp, right, should never exceed $500, you know. But, I mean, it's gone way beyond that. So maybe I'm just behind the times, I don't know. Alright, so there you go, there's a quick update of things that are going on, you know. And we'll see how all this stuff works out. But I tell you, I've been playing my two PV Classic 30s and really enjoying the sound. I mean, it's the kind of sound that if you were to play a concert, you'd be happy to have that sound, you know, playing the PV Classic 30s. And unfortunately, I can't say that about the Fender Bassbreaker15. Now keep in mind, I'm not saying it's a bad amp. It's not a bad amp. Just for my purposes, where I mostly play clean, you know, they're just quieter alternatives. But for, you know, kind of distorted stuff or overdriven stuff, the Bassbreaker is a fine amp. Alright, very good. I'll see you next time.